Good morning, everyone. Not all business stalwarts end up as entrepreneurs. Many go on to take up top roles in established corporates and lead the company through all highs and lows. A corporate structure refers to how a business is organized to accomplish its objectives. The corporate structure of a business is important because it determines the ownership, control, and authority of the organization. With the changing corporate horizon, it has become increasingly difficult to keep track of what people do and where they stand on the corporate ladder. Today, I, Aditi, welcome you all for this insightful panel discussion on the topic Corporate Canvas, where our panel members will throw light on how things work in a corporate world. We are honored to have an esteemed panel comprising of Mr. Niranjan Gupta, who is the Chief Founding Officer at Hero MotoCorp Limited. Mr. Niranjan carries a rich and diverse experience in financial leadership roles in Unilever and Vedanta Resources. In his career, spanning more than 2 decades, Mr. Niranjan worked with Unilever in various capacities. Prior to joining Hero MotoCorp, he was the CFO for the aluminium and power vertical of Vedanta Group. Then we have Mr. Amar Nagaram. He is the former CEO at Myntra. Mr. Nagaram worked at Flipkart for almost 7 years before moving to Myntra as its CEO in 2019. His startup is in advanced talks with investors such as Falcon Edge and Axel Partners to raise its first round of funding of 25 to 30 million dollars, valuing it at $100 million. Mr. Nagaram's venture will target new age shoppers aiming to address their fashion needs based on ongoing trends. This is different from the traditional way of shopping and is becoming increasingly popular in the markets. Finally, we have Mr. Tapan Singhel with us. He has been the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Bajaj Allianz General Insurance since April 2012. He has been with Bajaj Alliance since its inception in 2001. Mr. Tapan was also involved in various international projects, such as setting up retail business for Alliance in China. He has rich experience in the insurance industry of more than 30 years. His leadership has been recognized across the globe. Sir, we welcome you all to bring in your diverse range of experiences to the table and share your perspectives. We have Mr. Aman Dhal, who will be moderating this event. He is the founder of the award winning global integrated communications consultancy, Comms Credible. Through his venture, Mr. Aman is trying to build mutual trust between between the corporate and media community by curating stories that matter for the ecosystem. We are honored to have you here with us. So, without any further ado, let's begin the session. Over to you, Aman sir.
Thank you, Aditi. Just in time, I got back. My network had dipped, but thank you so very much for the invitation and to moderate this session. I think a very interesting topic, corporate canvas. I think especially in the last couple of years, the spotlight has been so much on the entrepreneurial side, the startup side, that the corporate canvas, which we have been talking about for last 2 decades, have somewhere taken a backseat. But having said that, I think on the corporate side, still a lot of work is happening, and I think it's great that I have with me Tapan, Niranjan, and Amar to talk about it. So I think without actually wasting much time, I'm going to actually ask, my first question, to begin with Tapan. What's your corporate canvas like? What's your day in a life? How does it work? Can you actually throw light on the same and talk about it?
Thank you, Aman. First and foremost, honor and pleasure to be here, with great people like Niranjan, Amar, and you, and talk to all the youngsters. So let me begin with Aman. I think when you guys talk of entrepreneurship and startups now, it's become very sexy, for the past, let's say, 5-10 years. But the fact is, 20 years back, when we set up this company, I'm the founding employee. It's exactly like how you would look at, starting from garages, starting your own generator, setting up, the company, working from 8 in the morning till about 1 in the night, Diwali reaching home at 6 p.m., Holi, coming to office at 2 p.m. It was exactly like that. No breaks, nothing. That's how we set this company up. Today, we look at Bajaj, we have 12 crore customers, retail, one of the best companies, one of the largest company in India, all organically built with the biggest distribution. Retail is one of the best in Asia. But 20 years back, it was not so. So the canvas, if you ask me, when we set up this company, was 8 in the morning till 1 in the night every day. But the passion was such that, if I look at it today we are a huge organization, very well established. I think I don't see that amount of love and passion. I think Amar and Niranjan can talk about it. Amar especially has done this. I think when setting up something, the brilliance of putting the minds together, of solving problems and crazy problems, like it looks like tomorrow the company will shut down, like you don't have any other option but know what to do next, and then keep on moving up, and then you build it up slowly. Today, I think my life would be much more easier compared to the earlier times. It's not 8 to 2 in the night now. Now it would be right, from about 9 in the morning till about 8 or 9 in the evening, and then you have series of meetings. You have investors meeting, you have shareholders, customers meeting, employees welfare, a regular stuff, no, and the entire day takes on. And then in ever-changing world, and that's what keeps me very excited. In today's time, look at the way the world is changing. I don't think a strategy of yours lasts for 5, 10 years now. A strategy of yours lasts for 2 to 3 months and 4 months. So the entire agility of taking the tech and everything along and coming with a new strategy and then moving to the next one, the hyper speed is what keeps us very, very excited and young, no, with all these years there. So one, I think, is the transformation which keeps on happening on the priorities as the phase of the company keeps on moving up. But I just want to tell you that the startups have always been there in a different form the way you see it today, no? And I think those were, again, the same thing, like I said, starting from garages, putting things together, starting your own generator, thinking clients should not come to office because you're just two people, working in like your banyan and trying to finish up all the work before you go home. So it's all the same, Aman.
Great point made, Tapan. I'll actually move to Niranjan to elaborate on his journey. Do you see any difference in terms of what startups are doing, or you would have done in your career going up the ladder?
I think, firstly, one correction, otherwise I lose my job. My introduction was given as Chief Founding Officer. I think I'm Chief Financial Officer, so that I keep my job on Monday when I go to office. Just on a lighter note. But picking up from where Tapan left, look, I have a very similar view that fundamentally, what is a startup? I mean, any business in the beginning phase is called a startup, right? And all of us, even within our businesses, even though I've not worked in companies at the scratch stage, but within the companies, for instance, when Unilever had to launch Pureit water purifier, that was actually a very different category compared to the FMCG that's used to, and therefore we operated in a startup mode. I think the differences that have happened now is about the ease of capital. So for instance, in the earlier days, 20 years, 30 years back, you won't have such a long rope on cash burn. I mean, these are two of my favorite terms, that there's a cash burn, but eventually you have to go to cash earn. Yeah. So the longevity, the duration that you are allowed today on cash burn, that is much longer. Second is people are willing to put risk capital far ahead of the time. And earlier, you would start small, you would probably then make profits, then you can list in IPO in a small way, your equity builds up, then bankers come, they look for debt equity ratio, gearing, and then you start moving that way. Now, today, all of those things have taken a turn where the risk capital you can put in much ahead, and therefore, even you're on losses, you can go to public issue, raise capital, you have much longer duration for you to establish and a bigger scale. So earlier scale would be gradual. Now today can. So these are changing times, honestly, and which is what is making a lot of people come to this. But I would say that whether it is corporate or startup, I mean, if you got an idea, it's not like you have to be at 20 to start a business. I mean, we've seen Nika, we've seen some other examples where if you got an idea which can become a business, and if you got a knack for it, if you have the risk appetite for it, you can go for it at any age, any stage. So I don't think it's a choice of do I do a startup, do I do corporate, do I work here, or do I do business? It's all about what risk appetite you have, where your context is. And finally, it's about enjoying the role that you are doing, whether you are in a startup or in corporate or you are a founder, you got to enjoy what you're doing. And once you do that, the pressures, like Tapan said, of the times, I'm sure when he's worked till 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, I'm sure he's enjoyed that phase. And that's the key, because if you don't enjoy, then even your 9 to 5 can appear like 16 or 24 hours of working. And if you're enjoying, then working till 2 a.m. also in the morning can appear like your work just for 4, 5, 6 hours. So I think that's, to my mind, I'll stop here. But those are my early thoughts on this.
Great. I think some excellent points made. The fact that the long rope on the cash burn side, which is something which was not available earlier. What are your thoughts on the same, Amar? Tell us about your journey.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me here, and it's great to be amongst Tapan, Niranjan, and you. I don't think I'll make any new point other than what Tapan and Niranjan said. I just want to qualify it in a different light. I agree with Tapan and Niranjan. The entrepreneurship has existed for a very, very long time. It's not that it's only happened in last 10, 15 years. In fact, I would say the entrepreneurship before 10, 15 years was really, really hard. So kudos to all the big public companies that we have in this country who were able to go through those hardships and show us the light. Today, like Niranjan said, there is such an ecosystem. I mean, I'm not saying raising capital is easy, but we have many options to raise capital from, which was not the case 10, 15 years ago. But what makes me driving, and I haven't seen the world between 10, 15 years, fortunately or unfortunately. I've jumped into the startup space with Flipkart 10 years ago. And we've gone through some of the hardships, probably not relatable to what a companies did 2, 3 decades ago, but we did go through. We were creating new habits in the country. We were going against the skepticism that existed in the market. Why would anybody buy anything without touching it, feeling it? Why would anybody pay for anything without getting the product in the first place? What really motivated us to put in those 18 hours, 19 hours at work was we believed that this could be the next big thing, and this could change the face of not just our company, but the economy of this country. What ended up happening is also we changed the face of entrepreneurship in the country. There are many startups that came after Flipkart. In fact, I believe I'm late to the show again. I had to tell myself that, hey, you know what? There is something about, there is this problem that has been keeping me up through the night. So I said, maybe I'll go solve it myself. What is very important for anybody who's going through this journey in their professional thing is, and that something that worked beautifully well for me is be passionately curious. As long as you have that intent in you, nothing else seems like, I mean, I think Niranjan made a very good point. You cannot see this as a 9 to 5 job. The moment you see this as a 9 to 5 job, you're not helping yourself. Forget about everything else. If you're passionately curious about the problem that you are chasing or the problem that you're working on, then none of the things matter. Everything else will fall in place. If that is not your input, and if you're actually optimizing for titles, money, or anything, then nothing will keep you happy. But if you're sure this is a problem that is going to keep you motivated, just be at it. And that's something I've learned from some of the greatest minds I've worked with in last 10 years, from our founders to all the great leaders at Flipkart and the industry. Fortunately, I've been exposed to a lot of traditional industries in the country through different forums, and I've learned quite a lot from them. I mean, in fact, my respect for those individuals who built industries in this country even before the foreign investments came in. It's completely I mean, I can't even imagine what this generation would have done then. We are so used to entitlement that, hey, my VC is like 2 blocks away. I can call up a VC and say, I have an idea, will you listen to me? It was not the case before. When we have such opportunities, when we have such kind of infrastructure, which is a function of all the hard work done by my predecessors, my only request to this set of the students or the new entrepreneurs coming out is leverage the infrastructure, build on top of it, but don't forget to give it back.
Amar, great points made. You mentioned about the fact that your work was about creating new habits. There was skepticism, which you people were able to change through the work that has happened in the last couple of years, the new phase of entrepreneurship. Tapan, what's your view on the same? These new habits coming in. How much headache did it give it to the larger corporates? These new habits coming in. So how did you ensure that your corporate canvas again was very nimble footed and was tackling the same and working with these new rising entrepreneurs?
Oh, that's a very good point. So if you ask me this question, let's say 25 years back, I would have said it's good to do business on your own. Don't collaborate, look inwards, innovate, bring out new ideas, conquer the market, and just before others can realize, you are way ahead. Today is different. So you'll be very surprised and happy to know the moment Flipkart came in, I told my team, let's collaborate. Let's make Flipkart our partner. And I actually went and met Benny and no, I think Amar also maybe, I went to their office and I sat and they actually said that it's very interesting to see traditional companies think like this. And Flipkart is still my partner and most of the mobile that you buy is all insured by us, all across, if you look at it. So I think in today's time, the biggest lesson that we all should understand, learn is it's not about you. It's about the ecosystem, it's about collaboration. The faster and the better you can forge ahead. And like Amar said, no, that how do you solve ideas? Like Niranjan said, how do you get passionate about it? And what are you solving it? What are the new things coming up? And how can you be on the top of the game is what everybody should pick up. So it's no more about individualism anymore. I think the era of individualism is gone. It's an era of collaboration. It's an era of solving issues. It's an era of trying to figure out what problems customer can face and how do you solve it and whom all do you partner with and how do you take it forward. So for me now it's very exciting times. I've partnered with so many youngsters and so many young companies. I love every moment. And the problem that we solved, which was not earlier there. Let's say a mobile has a damage in some northeast corner, in Imphal or someplace. How do you solve the claim sitting in Pune? So we did remote sensing. We ensure that all the mobiles got settled. And you'll be surprised, Raman, that the NPS score in Flipkart for mobile insurance 95. Can you beat that? A 95 score is unimaginable. None of the financial services or even e-commerce will have that. When you solve collaboratively problems and come with solutions, the results are magic. That's all I have to say on this.
If I may just add, Aman, if you allow me on what Tapan has said, and Amar earlier, I think just picking up from there, earlier the age used to be that, okay, either I have, I would create an IP and therefore I would patent it, copyright it, and that would protect me and I would not allow others to participate. So that would be my key to win. And then, of course, because of my scale, I can invite capital more than the smaller guys. All of those are gone now. The winning is no longer about IP. I mean, let's say if Flipkart can do a customer service and keep customers happy, they won't have an IP on it, right? Or Tapan is talking about an NPS score of 95. It's not an IP that he has. But what is very important is therefore continuously, how do you serve the customers better? How do you solve their problems better? And therefore, that's the eventual game. It's not about IP protection. And therefore, the importance of collaboration, which Tapan is talking about, that it's no longer about competition, in my view. It's about collaboration with customer in mind and with ability to solve problem, faster than what customer expects you to, and keep on reinventing yourselves. Because earlier, even in generations, we and our dad and dad's dad, the differences would be like in 20 years, probably a generational change is happening. Today, it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. A brother who's 4 years older than daughter or sister have got different preferences. So that's how fast the customer habits, expectations are changing. So what would happen in the next 70 years has to happen in the next 7 years or 10 years. That's the speed at which each company, each corporate, everyone has to keep reinventing. And it's going to be the age about collaboration with customer in mind and no longer competition.
Great. I think, again, you made a very brilliant point about winning is not about IP now. It's about collaboration, which Tapan also, clearly highlighted. Before I move on to the next question for everyone, I just want the audience, whoever is there from IIT, please ensure that you send in your questions in the chat box. I will keep picking them up, as we go. And it will ensure that we are collaborating with you as we actually have this discussion. So I think my next question is to Amar. Who were your role models when you began? Obviously, today people have so many role models to choose from, right? Which wasn't earlier the case. Also, the media had become very proactive, highlighting success story. But who were your role models then and now?
Well, I believe in learning consistently. So as you keep on learning, your role models will also keep on getting added to the list. But I believe for everyone, the first role model will be parents. It's how my mom and dad taught me the values of life and how they brought me up. I'm trying to do at least 10% of that to my kid. So that's a very high bar they set for me. and my professors, my teachers, everyone at school, everyone at college, their service to the next generation. They always wanted us to be smarter than them. That is a very, very great purpose in life that they have and they carry forward. And when I started working, my first manager, who taught me how to be a good manager. And in fact, when I went to him for a suggestion, 2 years into my job, I went to him for a suggestion. I said, what should I do to be a good manager? He said, think like an employee. And if you think, if there are things that you didn't like when your manager did something to you, make sure you don't do that to your team when you become a manager. So there are many people in that my entire career who helped me shape the way. So it's hard to take one person name. But if I were to take this larger than life characters, um, since I spent most of my 2000s in US, it was obviously Steve Jobs. I was amazed by his attention to detail. I was amazed by his consumer understanding. I was amazed by how he could put science and art into such a beautiful product. And Jeff Bezos, for sure, for his conviction, for his ability to tell the world that there is something else in the world of commerce that you guys have to see, and his ability to even uh, launch some completely what looked like a completely unrelated industries. Like, who would have thought an e-commerce company would be the world's largest cloud provider? And it's something people would have expected either Microsoft or Google to do. Amazon did it. So for his ability to go out of the box and do this completely non-conventional stuff. And today, Elon Musk, for taking the innovation literally outside of the orbit. So there are many such larger than life inspirations. But to me, more than that, I take inspiration from everybody I meet, everybody I talk to, everybody I learn from, because every individual brings a very unique value to the table. And as long as we keep that open mindset, and you don't have to always look for those figures uh, in some pictures or on the posters, you can learn from everybody around that. And that's how you keep the learning thing alive in you.
Right, Amar. I think great points made. I think learning is happening pervasively all the time for us. I think anyone. I think. What about you, Tapan? When you were growing up as a child, were there any sporting heroes you were looking at and thinking, okay, I'm going to become a sports person, or they were like somebody, a doctor or an army kind of a figure? And how did your role models changed through your career journey?
So, Aman, for me, right from the bus conductor to to CV Raman, and when you're a child, everybody's a role model. To the Air Force pilots, because you whatever you would see, you get super excited. Haan, ye banna hai. So I think I remember. I don't know if the uncles and aunties do it today. In my time, whenever they would come home and they would ask, "Bacha kya banoge?" I had no clue. So I'd always say, "Kuch bhi ban jayega." So, and the second thing which again comes to your mind is, while Amos was speaking through about role model learning, is that the role models, I realized later that they were role models. At that time, they gave me a very tough time, no? So let's say, beat our parents, when you're growing up and your mother's after your life, ki padhai nahi karta hai, bhag jata hai, khelta hai, kar your father telling you, this is not the way, this is how you should be. Then later you realize that the learnings were such a huge learning in your life and such a had influence on you. Or let's say nowadays my daughters, they'll keep on telling me that this is not the way, you should dress up, and this is not the way, you should be, and then you say, they give you a tough time, but then you realize, okay, after some time that, okay, they were right, and that's how you learn. In fact, my boss, I think this is something important for all the youngsters here. I joined a government organization when I started my job first, and in a government organization, I was a direct officer, which meant, and a journalist, which meant any work could be given to me, So when I joined my office, my boss had no clue what to do with me, and he called me, and sometimes said, "You're a divisional accountant." Now, I'm a scientist by education. Accounts had no clue about debit or credit. No, luckily Ranjan is here, so he can understand my predicament. And those days you don't have Google also, and you didn't have automatic system. You had ledgers, sub ledgers, and vouchers. And he called me and said, "You're a divisional accountant." And I said, "But I don't have any clue about accounts." He said, "No, you're a direct officer, so you have to do any role." And I go and sit on my desk, and I have no clue, and I'm the divisional accountant. Can you imagine like how it was be? And obviously, I learned it the hard way, worked very hard, built it up. And then one day he calls me and says, "You're the legal head." And now I don't even have a clue what legal head means. No, then I go to the course, pick up rubber. So whatever entrepreneurship that you see in me of building this company, it actually came from bosses like this who gave me such difficult circumstances to work and thrive on. The today I look back, I thank them. Those days to curse them, like what the hell have I got into? What kind of like a jallad of a boss I have, and who has no clue, no understanding of what he wants to do. So when you look back in your life and then you realize, okay, these people played such a big important role in making you who you are today, and you will be very grateful to them and thankful to them. So role model will come to you as you progress in life, and the more difficult they are, the better they are for you. Remember this, but that is how your character would get shaped, your personality gets shaped, and whatever you deliver is because of all these people. It's not you. You get molded. You are like work in progress till you die. Well, from the time you're born till you die, you're always in work in progress. You never get into a refined stage completely. And all these people will help you become that work in progress as you go along. When you look back, no, should be thankful to all of them. That is my only message on this. Otherwise, Amar had actually summed it all very beautifully in terms of the way he spoke about role model learning from everybody.
Beautiful message, Tapan. We are molded by our own experiences, the ecosystem which we are part of. And if it is up to us, at times we don't even understand at a given time that we are learning immensely from that, which starts to reflect. We start to reflect upon later on. Niranjan, what about you? Tell us about okay. Amar covered the part that he learned a lot, especially from his parents and all. Tapan gave a little view on his journey in terms of the people he learned. Obviously, I think what I can definitely see is the family is one where there are a lot of learnings that has come from. But beyond the family, Niranjan, tell us about your bosses a little bit more.
Sure, Aman. Firstly, I'm so fascinated by this conversation that's happening. That looks like, whether it's Amar or Tapan or me, we seem to have very similarity of thought. So I don't know whether you did some filtering before getting the panelists. But just when I reflect, I mean, I was about to say exactly the same thing that Amar said or Bill Tapan what he did. But just to put a couple of other things. I mean, and this is again in a sense of a bit of advice also to the young age students who are part of this audience, who will start their careers. Very often we think that because we are more qualified, we have more degrees than our parents, that therefore we are right and they don't know. But I think we need to remember that wisdom and values, they don't come from qualification and degrees. They come from experience. They come from having seen life. They come from what they have seen, what teachers have seen, what our parents have seen. We haven't seen that, and that's true for everyone, right? I mean, it's just pure science, and therefore that wisdom and values is extremely important. It's not taught in any books. It can't be acquired by degree or qualification. So I think that's something that each of us need to have that in mind. Sometimes as youngsters, I see we miss out on those, and that's very important. Beyond that, the way I've looked at role models, Aman, is more, and I think Amar said that, is not about a role model, but it's about learning a particular attribute. So, for instance, a particular thing. For instance, I know people who are absolutely great in listening skills. I mean, there's no parallel to them. Now, that's where you make your role model that, wow, if I have to imbibe this quality, then it is this person, because you can personify the quality that you want to imbibe, and then you can start emulating a bit, obviously, in your own context. So I've looked at things in that way, that what is it? I mean, some people are there who are extremely good in big picture. Some people extremely good in getting into details. Some people fantastic in people oriented, how to develop people and careers. So I think it's about picking up those traits, that who do you think is actually best at those traits, and then see how much you can emulate. So it's always been, for me, it's always been about that, not, let's say, one role model as such. And the other thing is, which I think Amar said, is uh, everyone should continuously look out for learning through interactions. I mean, we do coaching, we do trainings. Honestly, those don't give so much of this one. In fact, I'm not a big fan even of leadership books. I may be controversial here, but I don't, I'm not a big fan of those. But I'm more a fan of interacting. You interact with anyone, either seniors, experienced people like we're having the panel today, or even people who are youngsters, even your son, daughter, your juniors, you can learn from everywhere. Like Tapan said, I mean, from bus conductor, from driver, everyone has got certain skill, certain attitude, certain character that you can learn from. It's about us keeping our eyes and ears and mind space open. If you have that, I think this world is itself a beautiful place to learn. You don't need to, actually pick up one role model or one place to learn.
Aman,
Niranjan, very well
I
said.
did add one thing, Aman, on Niranjan. I couldn't resist it. When he said he's not fan of leadership books, no, I remember one dialogue I normally give a lot of youngsters is कि अमिताभ बच्चन की नकल करके कभी सुपरस्टार नहीं बनोगे. You may appreciate, learn, see, but the path is going to be yours. You have to forge your own path and create a very, very different path. So just by emulating, some will not make it. So that is exactly and I could not resist but give that one.
No, I think great point. Again, like I think Niranjan very well said. It's all about attributes where you mentioned. It's about learning those attributes. It can be anyone. I think what I'll do is, in the interest of also time, I'm going to start taking up also questions that are coming to us. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask maybe one person that one question rather than actually float it around to everyone, so that we can take up more questions. But if anyone has to add to it, I think then that this person can add. So maybe I'll begin with the question of Havi Bhora. That's which spaces in corporate are still to be much worked. Basically, Havi wants to know uh, any particular space where there is a lot of opportunities that exist in the corporate ecosystem. Amar, do you want to take that up?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the question. Are we talking about unexplored opportunities, or it's a generic question in any industry? Because
I think that's what I can make out. Unexplored opportunities within the corporate space, where corporate is still trying to work and get better, and where actually maybe students can get in and start molding their career into.
see,
Anyways, if yeah,
I fundamentally don't agree with the word corporate, or don't agree with the whole notion of corporate being a bad thing or this thing.
mm,
In fact, I would say there is a order to chaos that corporates bring, and it's not easy to stay in chaos for way too long. So having calling out that disclaimer, there are things that I would actually suggest or advise the students coming out into um, the professional careers to watch out for is I think Tapan said it brilliantly. You cannot be somebody by being somebody, and you have to script your own journey. And the way you script your own journey is how do you take how do you learn from everything, and how do you take the opportunity into your hands. Nobody is going to call you one day and say, hey, here is your opportunity, go shine in it. You need to actually take the opportunities, and that's true across the industries. There is no such industry where everything will be given to you on a platter. I think I don't know exactly. I think it's Madhavan who said it brilliantly. The actor Madhavan who said it brilliantly. Um, your hard work is like iron, and the opportunity is already there. It's like a magnet. Unless you don't work hard, you can't be attracted to the magnet. So that is what I would actually advise this thing on. There are no this number of programming languages that you need to know, or these things that need to know in accountancy. It's inherently who you are. It's your passion to learn, passion to go solve the problems, passion to step up, roll your sleeves up and get into the problem. Nothing is going to come easy. We know, I mean, even for my generation, I'm not even talking about the kids who are coming out of the school, even for my generation, and this is something I would love to learn from my parents, is the lack of patience. We want everything now. Like if it takes time, it creates this frustration in my head somewhere. Like, why is it taking time? And I'm telling myself every day, like, how do I get into a habit of being patient and giving it the right time for right things to happen while I continue to do what I need to do. So while I'm doing it, I don't think I should preach for it, but this is what I'm advising people to see, because I'm trying it.
thank you, Amar, for your great advice. There's one very interesting question that I can see. uh, I'll ask that question to Tapan. So this has come from Ritvik. Is having an MBA important in today's world for rising in the corporate ladder? Brilliant question.
And I think you said you're the right guy. So Aman, I'm not an MBA. I'm a scientist of education. So no, I think that to just begin with this. So when I used to go for interviews, a lot of time people ask me, "Where did you do your MBA from?" You know, and I would tell them I'm not an MBA. And then so once I normally don't get irritated, I got irritated. I said I did my MBA from the Street University. So they asked me, "Where is this?" I said every nook and corner of the country and everywhere. And in fact, I started a series called Street MBA. Way backwards just to. So I think these are mindsets, no, and we heard it before, like Amar and Niranjan speak about it. That it's not about the degrees that you have. It's about two, three attributes that is more critical. No? Degrees are always good. It just trains your mind in a particular manner. So people ask scientists how do you join the corporate world. I said that scientists just train my mind in a different manner, and that makes me more curious eternally, to look at problems differently. It's a training of the mind. So any kind of degree is a training of a mind, and that's it. After that, it's your attributes. Your
So
eternal hunger
Aman,
make a
just
difference.
sorry to interrupt you. I think let me put it like this.
Yeah.
If there is an so a lot of what I have seen again, like in my career, a lot of students, a lot of people, young people who are in their careers, they think that MBA is the key to growing. I'm not getting a promotion because I don't have an MBA degree, and they end up actually pursuing the same. You as a company, Bajaj, would that be a hindrance if someone has to grow up in the ladder?
Aman, I had to have an MBA degree. And in
Yeah.
about just 10 years' time, I became the MD of this company. And now for 10 years, I've been the MD of this company, an MD and CEO. So I don't think that. And if I look at all my senior leadership, I think 70, no, maybe 80% don't have an MBA degree, and they are really top stalwarts of the world in terms of the delivery they do. So no degree is good or bad. So let me make it clear: if your MBA degree is also very good, yeah. You don't have a degree, if you are a scientist, if you are an engineer, if you are a doctor, it's very good. All degrees are very good, Aman. I don't think we should have any kind of bias about what a degree does. A degree just trains your mind well. But I've called this education mafia. A lot of times it's like a mafia which gets into your brain ingrained. If you don't do this, you fail. It's a perception creation against which I've always spoken about in a lot of forums, and I said I do my own series also. The learning is continuous, your hunger, your attitude. And when Amar spoke of the corporate world, it's up to you to decide how much do you have to move up. How do you take on things? How do you take challenges? How do you take on the most difficult things? How many of us would take the most difficult assignment in which the corporates have failed and in turn said, okay, I'll take a shot at this and really work hard to convert it. I promise you, the fastest way to become the MD and CEO is you take two such challenges in your corporate career, and I promise you'll be an MD and CEO of a company. That's it. Turn around something with the corporate not able to solve. You raise your hand, take the challenge, go and prove it and solve it and make a difference. 2 or 3 such points you take, you will rise to the top. No degree and anything will have any relevance. It is just how do you solve either the customer's worry, the corporate problem, and how do you take it head on when everybody's afraid to go to that place, and how do you transform it. I think that is what is one thing you should be obsessed about. Degrees are good. It is nothing wrong with that. But I've been against any kind of mafiaization of any degree to make it prerequisite for any kind of success. I don't think that's the right way to look at it.
Brilliant point made, Papan.
Aman,
And I think,
if they need
yeah,
one more example, here is one more example. I don't have an MBA. I'm a
awesome.
hardcore computer science engineer, and I never thought I would be running a company one day.
I
That
think
was
also,
not the intent with which I even approached my tenure in Flipkart. What made me or what got me to where I am or where I was a month ago is every problem that came my way, I put my hat in. I was like, let me go solve it. Let me go solve it. And that got into the notice of my board of directors. And when the opportunity opened up, in fact, it was the other way. They called me and said, hey, we're thinking of you as the CEO of Myntra. And I was completely surprised. So that's what I meant. So when you do the problems, when you actually chase those problems very passionately with an intent to solve them and with an intent to learn, everything else will fall in place.
so I think a message for IIT Kanpur students: there are 2 great case studies here, so you don't need to look anywhere outside. Degrees don't matter. They do in terms of maybe you might be learning something there, but they don't matter at least in terms of your success. And if it is a matter in any setup, I think you are at a wrong place. Okay, I think I'll move to the next question, and I think I'll ask Niranjan that. I think there's some question which has come on the paperwork and licenses. So I think Niranjan should answer that, being a CFO. In our country, the part of getting licenses and other paperwork done is very elaborate and time consuming. How do you ensure it becomes faster? What's your role in it, and how are you solving that problem? This has come from Sampada.
Right. Thanks. Now, look. First of all, I think Amar mentioned it some time back that uh, the processes that one had to deal with 20 years, 30 years back, and the regulations and etc. What you deal today is probably less than half of what one was dealing 30 years back. So from that point of view, there is, of course, ease of doing business has become a cliche word, but overall, the processes have simplified as things have moved along, and today the ecosystem is very conducive. Having said that, there's no running away. That there's a shortcut. There can't be a shortcut. There are processes, there are regulations, there are paperwork that needs to be done. Some which is required and some which is redundant, and hopefully over the next few years will get simplified. My advice, the best way would be, look, if you are talking about, let's say, doing a startup and a business, and then you are saying so much of paperwork, how do I get it done? Just engage an expert. Yeah, engage an expert or get a firm which is actually good in doing those things, and outsource that part of the job. Because depending on what core you want to do, if the core is you want to be focused on solving a problem, customer's problem, creating an idea, pushing it, then outsource those part which will otherwise consume your time. So that's the best. Rather than trying to learn every aspects of the business, I would advise it that way. But there's no running away from that. But I would just say that outsource it to certain firms. There are many firms, many experts, many experienced people who've done that, and and it need not be expensive as well, by the way. So there are many people retired who know it, and you just need to source that knowledge and that expertise and be done with it, so that that headache is out from your end.
Brilliant advice, Niranjan. Do what you're good at and take help where you feel somebody else can do better for you. Coming to my next question, I think a question I'm picking up from Talin, who says, "How do you keep up the passion during low times? How do you keep yourself self-motivated all the time?" I'll pass on. I think I'll pass this question to everyone, and if everyone can actually say it in a few words, I think it'll be brilliant. So, Amar, over to you first.
I would request Tapan to go first.
Okay, thank you. So I'll give you one or two stories from my own life because those are critical. Most of you will face it. So 5 years into the job, I was slated to become the MD, and I'd been delivering, on a lot of challenges, and it was there. And it was more or less clear, and people had more or less told me that I'll become the MD. I did not become. Somebody else became, the MD. And then they said, "No, you're very young, Tapan, so we have to, look at this." And I said, "Okay, that's a fair point. It's perfectly fine." And I did not feel much demotivated then. 2 years again later, I had to become the MD again. This time again, I was told that no, you'll be the MD and the CEO now. And then again, I did not become. Last moment, no. And then a lot of people called and asked me, "What do you think? Do you think you should quit and you should join somewhere else?" And no, because you already have offers to become the MD and CEO of other companies. Should you do that, or what's your view? And when will you become the MD and CEO? So I told them, I do not know when I'll become the MD and CEO, but I promise you, the day I become, I'll be the best MD and CEO an insurance company has seen. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to become better. Maybe I'm missing somewhere. No, people should have no option but to make me the MD and CEO, and I have to build that skill and the caliber and the level to that level. And then there's this very famous Urdu sher, "Khud ko kar buland itna, no, ki khuda bhi puze teri raza kya hai." I said I'll reach to that stage. So in my worst of times in my career, when like it was like it's there for me, and I did not become. The option I had was to criticize, crib, say world is unfair, or decide to make myself so strong that the world has no option but to give me what I deserve. I think that moment of thought is very critical when you're beaten and out, is how do you respond to that particular moment is what you decide. So be very careful that moment. Don't worry about long-term motivation, all that stuff. That moment when you're beaten and out, what's your thought process? Do you want to emerge stronger or do you want to give it up? That will decide where you land up in your life, in your career. No, that's all from my side. Amit.
Nice. I think brilliant again. You mentioned "Khudi ko kar buland itna." I think that's a beautiful line. Niranjan, what about you?
Yeah, I would, and Tapan very nicely, and obviously with your experience, the way you summed up. Just a couple of more points. I would say, firstly, we are all human beings. We are not machines. So we have to acknowledge that there will be low times. There will be times when you feel demotivated. There will be times of low energy, high energy, right? And it's very perfectly natural to feel that. So there are people, coaches who say, no, keep, always motivated, always energized, high passion, 24/7. Doesn't happen. Yeah. I mean, you wake up, you run, you sleep also, right? So you're not running during all the 24/7. So I think it's perfectly human to feel those things when you're in low times. However, what's very important is keep your self-confidence intact. Yeah. Because your low times could be due to confluence of many things. There are contexts, circumstances, other people, could be something else, but keep your self-confidence very high. Don't destroy your self-confidence, right? And then, like Tapan said, build yourself up from there. And the third thing I would say is essentially, as soon as possible, initially there will be negative thoughts, but as soon as possible, you should try to come out of the negative thoughts, thinking always that as people, as individuals, we always have choices. I have very often heard people saying, look, I have no choice, or look, I had no choice. No. You always have a choice. It's just that we fail to see choices. The moment we see that the power of choices lies with us, then you will feel confident that, yes, I have an option to do X, to do Y, or to, pick up myself. But the power of choice lies within you. And then don't surround yourself with people who may put more negative thoughts. Don't victimize yourself. I think those are the few, just from my own experience, as I've learned, is what my advice would be, to pick yourself up from low times and then again go back to the high times.
Brilliant. I think, Amar, before you answer that, there is another question which I'm going to merge it with it. So this question has come from Ish. How do you face the fear of getting failed and losing? So I think in a way I'm trying to merge this question with the one, how do you keep yourself self-motivated? What about the fear of failure? How do you overcome that?
Actually, the reason why I didn't want to go first was I didn't want to sound cliche, and I wanted to hear from likes of Tapan, who has seen obviously more industry than I've ever seen. But we also have a different perspective into what's happening in the world of internet and what's happening in the world of e-commerce. We live in an Instagram world where everything is hunky-dory, where everything is perfect. We use filters. We never put up our own pictures anymore, except on Aadhars or PAN cards. Nobody has any real pictures. So we're living in a very, very dangerous bubble, with a pressure to look perfect, with a pressure to be this successful, this thing. My first point is it's okay to fail. There has not been a single character in this world who haven't failed, starting with our own parents. Everybody in this room right now, the credit goes to the parents. When we are a country of 1 billion people and only a few can make to IITs, it's because of their hard work. It's because of their ability to raise from their falls that the students, their kids, are able to go to IITs. So it's okay to fail. It's okay to not look successful, but it's not okay to not raise up. You have to stand up. There is nobody, and this is what I said in the earlier context also. The corporate world, nobody is going to give it to you on platter. You have to take the opportunities. You have to stand up. You have to grab it. In fact, I keep telling my teams, there is absolutely nothing wrong in asking for a raise. There is absolutely nothing wrong asking for a promotion. You have to care for your career. There is no harm in asking. Whether the organization can do it or not, that's a different story. But do not think that somebody else will take care of you. As long as you have that driving force within you, none of the failures will demotivate you. That ability to, like, I know I can stand up. I know I can actually, I mean, today might be a bad day. I don't have to push myself today. But tomorrow when I wake up, I'm going to give it a fight. I'm going to get myself back to where I want to be. That positive intent with which you go to bed is what changes your future.
Nice. I think again, it's okay to fail. I think brilliant point made. It's okay to fail, but how quickly you recover and get back, I think that is very, very important. So I'm going to ask now Tapan the next question, which is again come from the students. Uh, Divyansh, which is that one book which is on the top of your list? Is you mentioned earlier, Tapan, that you're not in favor of reading these leadership books, but I'm still asking this question to you.
Okay, it's again a good question. So I think over phases of time, your priorities change. So for me, understanding spiritualism is something which I am really working on, not through any particular guru as such. I'm reading a lot. So I read Bhagavad Gita, autobiography of a yogi. I've read all the Puranas, the Vedas, because to me it's a scientific process. Spiritualism to me is not a religious process. It's a scientific process. It's a stepwise process, and I think one book which I loved was the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Patanjali say, not the Patanjali company talking about. So I think there are two, three people who wrote very scientifically on the path of spiritualism. One was Patanjali, other was Mahatma Buddha. I think they wrote very, very systematic, stepwise, how do you progress this journey. In fact, one statement from there really excites me, in which it says that you need not at all believe in God to be spiritual also. No, I think Patanjali mentioned that thousands of years back. It's unbelievable, this journey. So to me, Aman, in this phase of my life, I think I'm trying to understand this and work a lot on it. So autobiography of Yogi, Patanjali Yoga Suits are the top of the mind recall books right now. I'm going through Puranas right now to see how the process goes on. So I think one of the recommendations would be that in your journey of life, it's a combination of your ambitions, materialism, your hard work, your spiritual traits, your integrity, your honesty, your values, your ethics. It's a combination of everything together. It is a confluence of all this together which creates a marvelous you. I think so. It will be very good. If somebody would like to also dabble, understand this, and you don't have to follow anybody or anything. You can read a lot, understand, and go through it in a very scientific process to understand how this progresses on. So I don't know if this is the answer expected, but this is the
No,
answer.
I think it's great. I think spirituality is something. Eventually, I think everyone moves towards spirituality. Obviously, everyone's life is different. How they look at the prism of life is different. But I think if you ask me, I'm also a believer in spirituality rather than looking at somebody as a leader or a religious practices. I'm going to move to Niranjan from here. There is one question which has come, and also I'm going to ask you your favorite book. Simultaneously, you can answer that as well. So there is one question which has come from Ois Ahmad. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. How to optimize the balance between customer satisfaction and profit margin? I think great somebody has asked this question, because profit is something today not talked about much. But I think I'm really happy somebody's asking this.
Cool. I'll take the second one first, right? First of all, in my view, and coming from CFO, you may be surprised, but there's no trade-off between customer satisfaction and margins. Yeah, you cannot have margins without customer satisfaction. So therefore, it's not a trade-off. It's not an either or. It's not a choice. And sometimes even analysts ask me in my investor call, are you going for growth? Or are you going for margins? Are you going for market share or margins? I said, look, nobody asked me, should you have eyes or ears, or should you have nose or this? I mean, it's about having things, yeah, which all then together come together to make a sense. So customer satisfaction has to be priority number one, of course. You have to do it in a manner that generates sufficient margins and return for the invested capital in the business. That is how the success happens. So it's about how you then achieve that, without actually doing a trade-off. So I think that's the short answer I'll give. On the books, as I said, I don't read leadership books, but yeah, I do read a lot of fiction books, but I won't name them. But the other thing that I do is I'm a fan of reading books by business people. So I have read, like, books on Steve Jobs, books Elon Musk, or Shoe Dog, which is for the Nike. So I like that because then it's actually giving real example of a business, how they have set up, how they what went about it, what are the traits of those. So I think those are the books that I read. Yeah,
Would also love to know, what do you read on the fiction side?
in some other panel.
No, I'm just saying because I think that'll give some tips to students in terms of how to have an easy life as well. Work is important. It's good to have inspiration, but what is that other side also that you can explore?
Yeah, choose your I would only say that, look, choose your own way. Yeah, what gives you that pastime, that relaxing time. So for some people it's music, for some people it's books, for some people it's movies which have more intellectual thing, or for some people it is just nonsense movies. So it's about what gives you that relaxation, and you have to decide and choose on your own. There's no perfect thing about actually following X or Y or Z. Yeah.
Nice, nice, great, great. So I'm going to move to next question, which has come from Kandula. How to build team, as we are most of us are first generation entrepreneurs with a lot of energy, passion, and a vision. I think somewhere you answer the question when you say you have a clear vision, but still I'm going to ask Amar, how to actually build a team when you are a first time entrepreneur with a lot of passion, energy.
I believe this question is, when you're a founder, how do you build a team?
Right,
Right?
right.
I think the one foremost quality a founder has to have is conviction. If you're not convinced in your own problem statement that you're going to solve, you're not going to convince anybody else. And that conviction is going to get you through some of the hardest times, because there will be times even your own family members or friends will start questioning, hey, are you on to the right thing? Is this going to work? You need to have that conviction, and you should be able to translate or make that conviction or make that passion contagious. You have to sell what you're trying to solve. You can be good at solving this problem, but if you can't explain what you're trying to solve, if you're not able to help others understand what you're on to, then you will be this lone warrior, and lone warriors don't go too far. So as long as you can do these two things, you will find the right people. The easy temptation is throwing money at the problem. I would actually warn against it, no matter how well you're funded, because people coming in for the wrong reasons will only set you back. People coming in for the right reasons will take you the farthest. I think one of the brilliant things Sachin Bansal, the founder of Flipkart, said was, Flipkart's differentiation is not technology. Flipkart's differentiation is not our business acumen. Flipkart's differentiation is not the kind of investments we made into warehousing and all of it. Flipkart's differentiation is its people. The way people came together, the kind of people that came together. And that's the reason why Flipkart is still one of the largest forces in the country. And yeah, that's how I build a team.
Well said, Amar. In the interest of the time, I think we have now a couple of minutes left. I'll wrap up this session. So my last question, to everyone actually, is how do you see the future of corporate canvas? And I would like you to actually maybe identify the same through two or three words. Tapan, over to you first.
Very interesting. I think hierarchies will break down. Smart people, and I think if you really sum up all what you said, smart people can solve problems, are very, very obsessed about making a difference to society, to customers, to people, to are the ones which will know we reestablish the roots for corporate. But I see them as a very exciting times to come.
What about you, Niranjan?
Same thing, actually. I think the space is more exciting than ever before. There are lots of opportunity to express yourself, even right from forget corporate canvas. I remember, in our times of studies, 30 years back, we would have very fixed streams of A stream or B stream or C stream. And now you have a pick and make your own combination, right? Of so it's the same thing goes for the corporate canvas. I think the opportunities are huge. It's about your individual ambition, your goal, what you want to achieve, how you are defining your success. In fact, the audience here who are part of this, I would say, are already in IIT Kanpur, one of the esteemed education institution. So in a sense that they've come hard way already. But when you get into corporate world, the only thing you need to remember is that all you have achieved through education, you have to now leave that aside. And then you start as day zero, back to square one, and you are a beginner. I think that's where then the whole thing will come into place, and you can be successful, definitely.
Nice. How about you, Amar?
Well, it's a long answer, but since you're running out of time, I'll keep it short because this is one of my favorite topics. And as I'm building a new business/organization, my focus is going into building a company that stands for some values. And one of the most important thing is empathy.
Yeah.
And in corporate, that is actually, I mean, I'm not saying it's missing in all the corporates, but somewhere we put a lot of other things above empathy. And during pandemic, the companies that put empathy above everything else survived. In fact, that is one thing I would love to see change in the corporate canvas.
Okay, I think to wrap up this session, one of the things which my boss told me in my first job when I was a journalist was, "You're as good as your last story." I think that has stood the test of time for me. So I think what I'll say is, to wrap up this session, is if you are starting up, if you are looking to make inroads, start your day afresh. Build on what you are doing, but it's like a day zero every day when you are starting up. In the future, hierarchies will break down, impact will matter, empathy will be critical. I think these are the words I'm going to actually end this session with. And thank you so very much for being a lovely crowd, lovely audience who has sent some amazing questions. Your people are doing well. You are already, as Niranjan also mentioned, you have already climbed up one part of your career by being at IIT Kanpur. Build on it. You people are doing superb. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Tapan. Thank you, Niranjan. Thank you, Amar, for for your time and this great advices. And thank you also to Karthik and Nitya, who invited me over here. Thank you so very much, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you. I think it was really.
Thank you. It is great to be amongst Amar and Tapan.
No, Ranjan, same. I loved every moment of it.
Everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Yes, thank you.